Hey, what is happening, guys? How are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel. And today, would you believe it, we actually get to talk a little bit about Metroid Prime 4 again. So really, today's conversation and update is more focused on Retro Studios than specifically Metroid Prime 4. But, of course, naturally, this is still something that relates to Metroid Prime 4. You guys know that I'm here to cover any little itty-bitty piece of news or information that might ever drop around Metroid Prime 4, and discussing something happening with the studio behind it means that it inevitably will affect in some way, no matter how big or small, the development of Metroid. Of course, please don't forget that I am right now trying to cross 15,000 subscribers before the end of 2020. I'm only a few hundred away, and so as you watch this video, if you like what I'm doing, then please consider subscribing to the channel. I put out several videos a week, always discussing Metroid, Nintendo, and all sorts of gaming news and stuff. I have a lot of fun doing it, and I would love to hit that milestone, so hopefully as you watch, you decide to subscribe. So the update that we're talking about today comes from none other than Video Games Chronicle, VGC. Like I've said in the past, these guys are like the Metroid insider guys. Like, I don't know what it is that they're doing. I don't know who they know, but it just seems like they're always breaking the scoops about different updates happening with Metroid Prime 4's development and different hires and things happening with Retro Studios specifically. Granted, there is a public forum, a public location that they got this information about what Retro Studios is doing to its building in Texas, but still, it just always seems like the source for almost every update about Retro Studios and Metroid Prime 4's development over the past almost 2 years is always coming from VGC, so I've got to give them props. I really appreciate it. For myself, as a super huge Metroid fan and a YouTube channel that tries to cover and discuss everything around Metroid, it's very helpful to me because I get to understand when something like this happens, look at the details, and then discuss how big or not big it might actually be. The big update that we're talking about today is that Retro Studios is actually updating and remodeling their current office in Austin, Texas, and they're doing it to the tune of over $500,000. Nintendo's Retro Studios is planning to invest some $530,000 into an expansion of its headquarters as it continues to grow its team for the development of Metroid Prime 4. The Austin, Texas-based developer plans to invest the figure into building out 40,000 square feet of office space by next summer, which would be 2021, according to data published by U.S. sales intelligence firm Intelligence 360. The update to the story that happened before I had a chance to get on camera here is that the source of this story has since changed the wording of its original report, clarifying that the investment is for a remodel. That update about the remodel is just coming from the fact that initially, when this article broke, it was stated that they were actually moving into an entirely new building that was going to cost them a couple of $100,000 to move into and to remodel that new space into an office for Retro Studios, which is something that happens quite often as far as I understand. I mean, in any industry, whether it's gaming or any other big corporation or corporate world, you move from one space to another, you're going to pay to remodel it and change it. So while they're not actually changing like addresses and moving from their current building to a new one, they're still spending a huge amount of money to update it and probably turn it into essentially a brand new office with an additional 40,000 square feet. That sounds pretty sweet. There's a couple of other things in this article that we'll get to as well, because there really is a lot of info in this, and I really appreciate this short piece by VGC. It's pretty cool. But when we focus on this is the big story, right? Retro Studios is expanding its current office. They're adding 40,000 square feet of space, obviously to have new people and development tools in place, and they're spending over $500,000 to do so. So to me, I think that says quite a bit about what might be happening right now behind the scenes with Retro Studios and specifically on the development of Metroid Prime 4. While it could be very easy to look at this and say, well, this doesn't really mean much, this is something that just happens, big companies sometimes get bigger, they hire more people, they add new space, they remodel their locations, or they move locations or whatever. And that's true. It doesn't always have to have the biggest impact on every single little thing about the development of any video game. But to be fair, in the almost 2 years since Metroid Prime 4 was delayed, this kind of stuff, this information, and these stories and updates are literally all we have, okay? So I would love to report anything significant if Nintendo, the company who owns and is making this game, and Retro Studios, gave us something real and tangible and juicy and significant. But instead, all we've had for almost 2 years are VGC article updates about hiring this person, doing that, remodeling their office space, yada yada yada. This is what we have. So for myself and other Metroid fans who want to hear about every single different update, this is what we've got. And I do think that this does speak a little bit to what's happening. I think this is a little bit significant. I don't think that this is really a nothing story. I mean, the article exists for a reason. And to me, when I see that Nintendo and Retro, whoever actually is paying for this, maybe it's something joint between the two. I mean, Retro's owned by Nintendo, so, you know, Nintendo and Retro investing over $500,000 into updating and remodeling and expanding their office space, that's a big deal, especially when we know the main project that they're working on is Metroid Prime 4. It should, of course, also be noted that this will help aid and fund other additional products that aren't also Metroid Prime 4. I mean, if we consider Retro Studios and try to remind ourselves that they don't have to develop only Metroid games, this is the kind of thing that shows maybe as a whole, Nintendo is willing to grow and expand and invest in Retro Studios for more than just Metroid Prime 4. Even though, to me, this is absolutely a sign that Nintendo is willing to commit to doing anything it takes to making Metroid Prime 4 the best it can be, it does need to be stated that this is something that helps the overall studio that is Retro Studios, and that whatever they might have been developing before Metroid Prime 4, or in tandem with Metroid Prime 4, or gearing up to develop after Metroid Prime 4, this will help the entire studio continue to develop, hopefully, more games in the future too, not just this one Metroid title. Also, while I don't claim to be an expert when it comes to developing video games at all, I do find this interesting because maybe this is giving us an idea about how development is going on the game. I would like to think it's going pretty smoothly, to the point that Nintendo and Retro understand it's worth the $500,000 investment. It's worth updating and remodeling and changing and building a whole new studio in the current space that they're at. You only do that if you see it as a long-term play. $530,000 for a video game studio developing a big game right now is an investment in the future. They realize it might take a while to complete this game. They might realize the game is almost done and we have to move on to the next one. Whatever it says about where in the process they are, I do think it's a glimpse behind the scenes. And I see this as, in this respect at least, a positive thing. Not because I think this tells us Metroid Prime 4 is almost done, but just because it's a window into what's going on and the potential time frame that they're working within. And I like to see it. I like to see faith in Retro Studios. I like to see faith in the title of Metroid Prime 4. And to me, investing this much money shows that faith. I think Nintendo believes in what Retro Studios is doing. I think Nintendo and Retro probably believe in how Metroid Prime 4 is shaping up. So here we go, man. Spare no expense. Like I've said many times before, more money, a better studio, a bigger studio, hire more people, make this game amazing. That brings us to some of the other information in this article that I actually think is also really cool. Even though in some ways it's a summation of prior information, it also lets us know about some other things happening. They say this: for the past 18 months, Retro has actively hired for Metroid Prime 4, the project they took from another unnamed developer in early 2019, after Nintendo decided to restart development from the beginning. The studio has since hired a roster of AAA talent, including GTA producer, Call of Duty veteran, Halo character designer, Warhawk director, and DICE artist, and at the time of this publishing, it's still advertising 12 jobs for roles, including senior level designer. Now, I know we're all getting sick of updates about people being hired by Retro Studios to work on Metroid Prime 4. I get it. In many ways, I'm getting sick of it too, but I'm going to just reiterate what I've already said here and I've said in prior videos. This is all we have, okay? We are just Metroid fans who want information about this freaking game that Nintendo is torturing with us. Even though we understand why, and it's like, if the game wasn't turning out well, yes, you restart it, you communicate to the fan base, which they did, and then you move forward, and we know it's going to take a while. I've never been one to demand Metroid Prime 4 right now. You guys know me. I've been saying the game is 3-4 years away, and I'm happy to wait, but that doesn't mean I don't also want updates and something official. Heaven forbid, now that it's been close to 2 years, Nintendo shows some sort of trailer, some sort of tease, gives us an official name, because because I do think Metroid Prime 4 : something is going to be the title, or even gives us a window, something. But instead, we're stuck to hiring updates. And so, you know, they're recapping some of the things we've talked about before on this channel, all the stuff about the Halo person, the person from Gearbox and Tomb Raider and DICE and all this stuff. But I find it fascinating that they also state that currently Retro is still trying to hire 12 other jobs and positions for the company that seem to be specifically relating to Metroid Prime 4. And now also, we know this is public information. You can go to the job boards and see the 12 jobs. I don't think VGC is breaking a secret here. You know, you hire people publicly, but when you see it kind of all compiled and aggregated together here, and I'm not somebody who's scouring Retro Studios job boards because I'm not a game developer and I have a great job. So when I see it here, it's like, wow, here we are at the time where Nintendo is investing over $500,000 into the company to improve their space, to add space, to make room for more people, and that they're still hiring people. They just recently hired somebody from Grand Theft Auto, as they say here, and then 12 other jobs still trying to be hired. I don't know. I find that to be a sign. Again, it's not so much about positive or negative or big or small. It's the fact that they still need at least 12 people, including a senior level designer, on this game at the time that the studio is expanding. I don't think that that's nothing information. I think that that's information that tells us about maybe where they are in the process. And it tells us that things are going smoothly, and the more people they need, the bigger the team they need, hopefully, in theory, the bigger the game is, and we want to hopefully believe that the game will be that much better for it. So, you know, this is what it is. You know, hiring information is all anyone's giving us anymore about Retro Studios and Metroid Prime 4. I personally don't think we're going to see anything official on the game until probably around the E3 time next year. We don't know if we're going to have an E3 or not, but I think that that summertime gaming info dump that we're used to is probably when Nintendo will finally say and show something about Metroid Prime 4. I really do personally believe that. But I don't think the game is coming any sooner than 2022. That is my target date. You guys have heard me say that, and I'm sticking to it. Maybe even later. And I think that this information, to me, sort of... It's not that it confirms it, because nothing is confirmed. We're all guessing here. I'm guessing here. But I do feel like what we're seeing here, still hiring 12 people, $500,000 to expand the space, 40,000 new square footage to their office. I think this shows us that, yes, the game is far away enough that it is not coming out in 2021. It's definitely 22 or later. And so that's really it, man. That's really what we have today. It was a pretty cool update. I like seeing and learning that Retro seems to be doing pretty well for themselves. Nintendo is willing to invest money and expand their space. We got updates about more jobs. They're still looking for people. I think we have a little bit of a glimpse into what's going on with this game. And I can't help it. It makes me excited. I'm a Metroid fan drowning in a sea of no Metroid. So give me everything I can, and I'm doing my best to provide that stuff to you guys as well. So this is the story, the details, the updates, and my opinions on what we've heard. Tell me what you guys think about my thoughts and my breakdown. Share your own thoughts. And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review, and I will catch you next time on another video.